Hi guys. Now I get to start this song. Okay. So, oh man, maybe a bit too loud. Okay. So, how are you guys doing? I know you may be hearing this in double because I have a speaker and I completely forgot that. Anyway, that's going to go into the bloopers that are currently active. Back with some more, little tidbit discovery. And this time it's about going back to your past or current present, depending on the person that's watching. Something that I've been pondering through meditation and just thinking about the past. And before the shit that happened in my life kind of brought me to a state of numbness in my mind, when it came to drawing process and I started being too academical or too structural, there came a point where I kind of dived into the realms of role playing. Jumping into other people's role playing and writing role playing. And before that, way before, during grade school, there was a point where I had the tendency that could be looked as odd right now, but still valid, of putting myself into other stories, into other cartoons that I liked, growing up with G.I. Joe, Transformer, Goof Troop, and Mighty Ducks even, and all those shows. Having this point where I would insert myself into these shows and trying to understand, either through role play or just imagining, how it would feel to be in those shows or in those universes. And at one point, hell, even when it came to games, it got to that point. And eventually I just lost this whole thing because I don't know. I honestly don't know, and fuck it, at this point, that's not the point. The point is trying to get back to that. Why, you may ask? Well, it's because the more I look at it, the more I'm pondering on extra stage, and the more I try to sink myself into that universe in order to create that universe. So, to properly understand my comic and my idea, or ideas in general, I kind of have to achieve a state where I can somewhat be in this universe, or trying to position myself in the universe and trying to mentally walk through that universe. And I was thumbnailing a couple of environment for extra stage disc 5, the upcoming volume. And again, this thought, just going back to the past, this child type of idea of inserting yourself in the story, in the environment, and trying to navigate through the environment, and trying to be like either a side character or next to the main character, or being a fan character, or hell, even being a janitor in that universe. Getting into that time where you will actively think of the universe and how it works, why it works such ways, or what would be an average day in that universe. That is key, and that is something I'm personally trying to acquire because I know it'll strengthen my design, it'll strengthen my characters, and it'll strengthen my overall passion for what I'm creating. And already for the little animation series I'm kind of planning, I always, like I said, in the shower, sometimes I try to mimic some of the movements and ways characters would interact with one another, actors would interact with one another, and this overall, I feel it kind of strengthens the overall idea, because you can always either push certain things further, or try to say, okay, well, maybe that scene is not going to work if I do it this way. So now I'm trying to, again, through meditation and just pondering, disconnecting from the internet, uh, trying to dive into my own universe and saying, okay, well, this is kind of shit. This is kind of bad. How do I make it better? How would this character interact with one another? How do civilians react to what is happening in there? And how do I strengthen the original design that I want to push, because I don't want to make this a boring world. I want to make this a very fun, active world, not simply for the main character to go around through, but to have an organic feeling to it. Now, the biggest difficulty I find with that, and especially in, again, the way I was raised, was to get out of this numbing area, where you're not really feeling, or you're just making a character to make a character, you're making a bad guy to make a bad guy, and blah, blah, blah. To get out of that and to um, maybe taking tidbits of life, or to bring life into it. And when it comes to environments, something that I'm more so slowly understanding is that I have to observe real life in a specific, well, not really specific method, but I have to observe it differently. Like right now, there's a huge snowstorm where I'm at. And while I was walking, meeting up with a couple of people, business wise, I was, when returning, I was understanding, okay, well, wait, snow. There's snow. How does a car move in snow? What little effect does it make? Why do I feel like I'm alive in this scene? Why does this scene feel alive? And this is where things slowly started to click. From the subtle movements of snow falling on a car to my feet just pushing snow ahead as I'm walking, the cold, but then how do you say that little freeze that you have on your hand from the snow falling on your mitts, but then remaining there. Like I had my pockets open, so a couple of my tissues, my Kleenexes, were freezing when I was trying to blow my nose on it. Like all those little subtle details of just feeling these things out and understanding why things are alive or things feel alive, then trying to bring that into the work. Again, going from the way buses go, and then going into those different levels of, okay, well, the bus is having a specific pattern because of the driver respecting the way civilians are moving, and then the traffic lights and such ways. It just, trying to get through that process. Why does a window look like that? Why does a car shine? There you go. Car shine. I'm making words. That's bad. Sorry again, guys. Too much coffee. But why does a car shine as you move from it? From the different perspectives. So it's getting that aspect, and then trying to put that in drawing format. And that's where, again, got to get to the childlike aspect. Being in your own universe, walking through your universe, trying to understand how to make it alive in such ways. And here is the point where, drawing wise, I need to look up Chinatown. I need to do a couple of visits in Chinatown, because I'm doing this on the fly, but this is the environment that's going to be in the next volume. So, I'm going to have to take a couple of trips in Chinatown, in my hometown, which I've done a couple of times, but less recently, because of blah, 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 got to work here, blah, blah, blah. But, again, that's an aspect of that I need to look at, references wise and also life wise. So it's kind of difficult to get into that way of thinking, and then understanding how to make your pictures come alive. Hell, even looking at the old masters and not simply copying what they've done, but understanding why they've done it in such a way. So tough, but manageable. And This is where, this is something that's quite good for creators. Hell, even when you do a picture, if you're able to understand the quote unquote reality of the picture by trying to, imagine yourself walking along the environment, like just, hell, I let's say, without spoiling too much, I'm gonna have my character just fall from this area because of what happened in last episode, grapple onto this, and then fall here. And I kind of need to understand at a high velocity. So, how does falling at a high velocity feel? Well, I've been to roller coasters, so that kind of gives me a hint about how it works. And then swinging, I've done swinging before. Uh, and of course, there are also reference like animes, but do not overuse references. Sometimes you just have to feel it out, and this is something I'm slowly getting into the habits of. Now I understand this process and this way of thinking better. I have a better understanding of that, and I'm gonna try to push myself towards that, giving myself the ample amount of notes to remember, remember, remember. Okay? So I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can remember, and if I can, then I don't know. Things will go further. Things will get better. Well, this is all I can blutter on the aspect, but remember your child self. Remember how you try to insert, for some people to insert yourself in your stories, in your background, or in your favorite shows, and then try to do that with your own projects and try to add some life through that thinking process. Don't make it an obsession, of course, but it's one of those things that these old masters used to talk about when trying to understand life and copy from life. Back in the days, I took it literally, just copying life. I'm drawing a fire hydrant. But there's a difference between drawing a fire hydrant and between drawing a fire hydrant and understanding and drawing its life and essence. How the light and why the light falls on it the way it does. Why is there rust? What caused the rust? What happens when there's water on top of it? What happens at night? What shadow does it bring out? Just how. What does it feel? Dear God, I wouldn't tell you to touch the entire thing, maybe just the top. Or just imagine metal in your head. You've touched metal. Everyone's touched metal once in their life, so how does that feel? And then just trying to put that in your drawing. And then you go on a higher level. Environment wise, why does a park look like that? How is a park built? Why do people walk this way? Just society habits, just going into this whole thing. I guess an interesting experiment would just be going at a cafe and looking at how people act differently, even while they're tweeting on their mobile phones or just reading. Anyhow, that's about it for this tidbit of a nugget. I'm out. Thanks a lot for listening and the support, guys. See ya.